Again, you start when you're ready, because we'll cut the beginnings out anyway.
Side proposition their case only makes sense if you believe that boxing is an inherently violent sport that is violent to the extent to which being a boxer is always a bad decision. Today we'll show to you that that is not true, and if we show to you that this is not true, then already side proposition's case will crumble. But let's take a look at what she is essentially trying to tell you. She tries to tell you two things. First of all, that it was harmful to boxers because they tried to hurt each other, and then second of all, that by implementing this motion, these people would find alternatives. I'll show to you why neither of these two things are true, and why, even if they are true, why they aren't enough to win. First idea, it's inherently violent because they're trying to knock the other person out. Okay, you have to understand that boxing is one of the most technical of martial arts already, because it is a game where you are marked, unlike what she told you, on technique, on your movement of your body, on how well you guard, on how well you strike, not on how brutally or how strongly you hit the other person in the face, right? There are certain fouls that, although would be effective in an actual fight, are not allowed in boxing because we try to make the boxing game as clean, as respectful to each other as possible. It is not true that boxing is this game where you just try to cause as much damage to your opponent as possible. It's just not true. But second of all, right, even if it isn't true, just take a look at what she also told you within the same thesis. She told you that in exchange for that bodily harm, and they get the money they need to raise a family out of poverty. Look, right, why is this an illegitimate decision to begin with? Like, if you understand what she essentially told you, right? She told you that boxing is where, like, because of the desire for money to get out of poverty, these boxers they choose to box. But at its core, we think that this is a legitimate decision because we say that in many cases, poverty is by far a much more harmful thing to these families than being hit in a guarded ring ever could be. And we say that if getting punched in a sports environment is what allows them to have a bright future for their children and for the rest of their life, sure, why not? It's their decision. We think people make the best decisions for themselves. Second thing she tries to tell you, oh, they'll find alternatives because we banned it. Okay, sorry, but by your own case, this isn't enough for you to win. Because you believe that all martial arts are games where you try to harm each other, and so must be avoided. So if they just try to find alternatives, they move away from boxing, one which is very well regulated, into things like, I don't know, MMA or like kickboxing. I don't see where the improvement is for side proposition to win. They haven't won. That is why they haven't won this debate. But now I'll move on to my substantive. The first thing I'll show to you is that this is ultimately a beneficial choice and a very safe choice. We think that boxers know what they're signing up for, and when they sign up for it, they usually get good returns. The second thing I'll show you is that banning it creates a much worse harm, where the regulations disappear and you get the kind of brutality that proposition wanted to avoid so much. Why is this a legitimate decision? Because when boxing is legal, bear in mind, only when boxing is legal, do you get the high publicity of boxers, you get the transparency of the sporting arena. Why is this? Because when it is legal, it is supervised, and because of the high publicity, you are accountable to the people. If your heroes on the stadium is getting exploited by the companies behind them, then there would be an upright, right? It doesn't happen because the check and balance mechanism of the public, because the check and balance mechanism of boxers who want to protect their own interests, who have power, means that the boxers' interests are well protected. And so this information is there because it's public. This changes under their side, because the moment they ban it, suddenly a black market for boxers exists. Why is this so dangerous? Because bear in mind, right, that now precisely these people who have their entire lives dedicated to training their boxing skills, and that's the only thing they know how to do, can do nothing but box, because that's what they've been trained to do, right? Except now you've denied them the legal alternative, and so they can only enter an illegal market where instead of serving a crowd where the publicity protects them, they now serve for like rich minorities in a closed-off, hidden stadium. We say that is so much more dangerous, and they have no regulation. That's why I vote for side opposition.